Hi, today I'll be showing you how to make a pair of mittens on the Passap machines. This is a Passap e6000. You don't have to use this one with the electronics. This pattern I have is going to be with no electronics except for one point. And it's only because we have to use electronics on this machine for that part, or we have to manually put pushers up. It's actually your choice, but you can do the same thing on the DM80 or the Pinky. So this is a pair of women's size mittens, with no holes in the thumb by default, and ribbing, and the thumb is actually offset, so it's coming from inside the palm like your hand naturally does, and the decreases are all inward slanting. So let's go ahead and get started. We are going to be doing a 1 by 1 rib. That's every other needle on each bed. So what I'm going to do is do 54 stitches. So from -27 to 27 on the front. It's actually left 27 to 26. And on the back bed as well, we're going to bring those up into work. And we're going to observe the needle roll by having the rightmost needle on the back and the leftmost needle on the front. So then I'm going to take my edge springs to make sure that the latch is closed. I'm going to put the edge springs on. Okay. And the yarn I'm using is Lion Brand Mani Petty. It is a 4-ply, 50 grams, has 200 meters, super fine. And this is a self-striping yarn, so we're going to do on the back end just a little bit of matching up the stripes. So the colorway I'm using is actually called Wristers. This nice light blue, white to dark blue and purple color change. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the locks on N, stitch size 1.5. So N, stitch size 1.5. I have my yarn in there, and I'm going to have no strippers in for this row. So I'm going to do 1 row. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is take a cast on comb and decide that one is just a little small. I could use this one. It's not too small. So I'm going to take this out, pull it, push it up from under. Try not to stab through any of the yarns, and I'm going to put this on. Now you don't have to use a cast on comb, I just prefer to. Okay, now we're going to change our locks to CX and CX, and the stitch size is 2.75. Again. Okay, CX, 2.75 front and back. And then we're going to do 2 rows. Okay, we're going to switch back to N. We're going to increase the stitch size to 3.75 front and back. Do 1 row. And we've completed the cast on. Now we are going to do 26 rows of the ribbing. So I'm going to reset my row counter, and then we're going to do row counter 26. And I'm just going to hold the cast on comb down for some pressure. I'm not going to bother with strippers or weights just because it's only 26 rows. So now we have done the cast on and then 26 additional rows. So we need to move all the stitches from the back to the front or front to back, whichever you prefer. So there's a few ways to do this. You can do this with a double bodkin by slipping it in there and pulling up the needle on the other side, or you can use a transfer tool. So I have the U100E and I'm going to use that. So what you can do, depending on your yarn, depending on all your settings, it's very sensitive to what machine, what yarn, stitch size, everything. So you may need to increase the stitch size on the last row. You may not need to, depending on your yarn. And then you have to rack the beds so that the needles just barely touch, just almost. They're just really close, somewhere between 8 and 9, somewhere around 9 o'clock. Okay. And you have to bring all the stitches you're going to transfer to into work. And I'm just going to put a few more at the beginning so it kind of gets in the swing of things. Okay, the edge rings are out of the way completely. I'm gonna put this on with the arrow facing that way because I'm gonna move from the back to the front. Snap it on. Cross my fingers and see how successful this is. Give nice, steady push along. Okay, look at that. I just have one miss. So I'm going to pick that stitch up. I don't need to reknit this. It's easier for me to put it on the back bed than transfer it with a double bodkin. I'm just going to do that right now. Okay. Then we move along to transferring the work from the front to the back, half of it. So this is going to be left 27 to 1 that's going to go on this comb. And then I am going to release the cast on comb, drop the bed, twist the work around, and twist this around and put it on that side of the bed. Okay, get all these needles open, needle left one. So since I have the cast on comb on, I'm holding it down. So this makes it, the cast on comb makes it easier to pop those off. Okay. Put the holder on. And I'm going to rack the bed all the way one way, all the way to the right or all the way to the left. So this is all the way to the right with the last position that the handle can be up. And that is pre-racking so that when we want to shift needles from the front to the back to move the position of the thumb, we won't need to use the Decker comb to keep moving it to the side. Okay, so now I'm going to open up all these latches before I do the next step. Okay. Drop the bed. Remove the cast on comb. I don't have very long nails at all. Not easy without nails. Okay. Okay. And only slide it off as much as you need to in order to get it off the work. That way you don't have to fiddle with it getting back on. Okay. Now we have to pay special attention to this stitch right here because we don't want to drop that. I'm going to put edge spring on there. So what I'm going to do is pull this upward, rotate it along in the same needle bed. That helps. Push the ribbing down. Flip this over and also, you know, always be careful not to stress it there. I'm going to rest it there over the corresponding needle. Pull the bed up. Take this off. And now we should be in position to pull those over. Hold the ribbing from below to pop those off. And I'm pulling one of the sides and the other side to try to get these edge ones off. Those are the hardest to get off, yeah. Okay, straighten those out. I'm going to put the edge springs on the left. And then on the right, we are going to do a decrease because the mattress stitch that I like to use uses up one of the stitches and it would cause a pucker if we don't do that. So I'm going to take 2 stitches and move those over one. 2 so that I still have 1 stitch that's easy to do the mattress seam on. If I just move this one over when I try to do the mattress seam on it, it would be going through a decrease. It's easier to do it through a whole, just a regular stitch. Okay, I'm gonna put the edge springs on, and then we continue in the round.